In this lecture, we're going to be talking about how to inject code into the browser, into the target computer. So since we're the man in the middle and since everything flows through our device, then when someone requests a page, we can actually insert any type of code that we want into that page. Browsers can run two types of code. They can run HTML code and they can run JavaScript code. HTML code is the code responsible for the way that the page looks. So it's the code for the buttons, for the text, for the images, all of that. So it can't really be used to do anything that will allow us to gain any access to the target computer. JavaScript, on the other hand, it's a programming language that can be used to do many things, and we'll see that in future videos. In this video, we'll see how we can inject JavaScript code into the target person, into their browser. You can use the same method to inject HTML, but JavaScript is more useful. That's why we're going to use our example to inject JavaScript. So, let's first of all run man in the middle F with the help command, and we'll see what options do we have with the inject plugin. So I'm going to do man in the middle F. And if we scroll up, you'll see that we have the inject plugin. So we're going to be using the same command that we always use. The only difference is we're going to insert the inject plugin. And then we have different options for injection. So there's three main options. There is the file. So you can have your code stored into a file, and you can use JS file or HTML file to inject the code stored in that particular file that you specify. Or you can use, if your code is stored online and it has a URL, then you can use that URL or that link using the JS URL or the HTML URL options. Or you can actually supply the code itself through the command using the JS payload or the HTML payload. So we're going to be supplying the code through the command the first time, and then I'll show you using a file. So we're going to be using the inject payload, and then we're going to be doing JS payload. So I'm actually going to run the command here so we still have the help. So our command is going to be the same as always, man in the middle F. And then we're going to add the option, the plugin, which is inject. And then we're going to tell it that we want to specify the code through the command. So we're going to use the JS payload. Then you can put the JavaScript code after this option. So I'm going to put my JavaScript code, and I'm going to use very, very simple code that will only display a message on the target computer. So our code is not going to do anything bad. It's not going to try to hack anything. All it's going to do is just display a message box on the target computer. And in future videos, we'll see how we can use this option to do more powerful attacks. So basically, my code is going to do an alert, which is a function in JavaScript, and the alert is just going to say test. So our command is the same. It's man in the middle, F, ARP spoof, our interface, the gateway, the target, and then we loaded the inject plugin, and we're telling it we're specifying the code through the command. And the code that we want to run is alert, test, and that's it. I'm going to hit enter. And now the tool is running. Let's go to the target computer, browse a normal web page, and see what happens. So I'm just going to go to bing.com. And as you can see, the page bing.com displays a message box, and that message box says test. So again, this is very simple code that doesn't really allow us to do anything on the target computer. But we can use it in future videos to do more powerful attacks. Again, you can actually Google JavaScript codes and see codes that will be useful for you. For example, there's JavaScript keyloggers, there's codes that can take screenshots of the target computer, and there's a lot of codes. You can redirect the target computer somewhere else, steal their cookies. You can do a lot of these powerful attacks. Another way to run this attack is using the file. So if you are using one of these more complicated codes, it's going to be hard to write it through the command. So you'll be better off storing the code into a file and using the JS file option. So all you'll have to do is open your leafpad or get your code. So I'm actually just going to run leafpad, and I'm going to write the same code that we did there in a file. So I'm going to do an alert, and I'm just going to do test2 this time. And I'm gonna store that in my root. That should be okay. And I'm just gonna say, call it alert.js. And that's stored now. So again, if you're Googling or if you're using a more complicated code, you can have it all into this file and then inject it using the way I'm gonna do it now. And then run the same command that we did, but the only difference, instead of using the JS payload, we're gonna use a JS file, and we're gonna specify the full path to the file. So I stored it in root and alert.js. So if you downloaded a file of the internet that contains a keylogger, for example, or a file that will redirect the target computer to somewhere else, then again, same command, but make sure you put the JS file and then you put the full path to where that file is stored. I'm gonna hit enter, and man in the middle is working for me. I'm gonna come back here and let's browse for something. Let's say Javascript. And as you can see, our code, the second code that we put, which was called test2, was executed on the target machine. Now again, these are really simple codes, just displaying a message box, but you can download or look for more complicated JavaScript codes, or just follow up in the future lectures and see how we can use this feature to carry out more powerful attacks.